Hey, it's Manuel. BNB stake, is it collapsing? It's not looking good right now. We've all seen this movie. It ends the same way and it's never good. And it's happening far too often these days. There's so much excitement right now. It's easy to get sucked into these kinds of things. Crypto is becoming more and more mainstream, more and more legit all the time. So there are legitimate programs. So if you're tired of being burned by programs that run off with your money, consider sustainable platforms that can pay you more long term. We talk about that here.
Hey guys, what's happening? So BNB Steak's taken a nosedive, and we knew this would happen, but it's happened quite a bit sooner, following what was quite a run up, and I think that the run up was just too high, too fast for something with this model to be able to handle. So I think what you'd want to see with this kind of a model, which is not built to be sustainable, remember BNB stake now up to 21.6% per day returns. And so the question was, can it keep growing enough to sustain these kinds of returns? By the way, I never would have recommended this to anybody because it was so unsustainable. I played in it, and it doesn't even look like I'll make enough back. Now I can afford to do that because I generate enough Ethereum with legitimate projects, legitimate meaning sustainable, things that do pay returns like this, for example, but that have been around for a long time and that will continue to be around because they have real value in the marketplace as beyond just people having to join it and to keep it going and making money. So I always see these as gambling. And I like to kind of connect with the audiences that are participating in these and just kind of recommend that you look, if you're going to play in these, more power to you if that's what you want to do, if you understand the risk, but make sure you're also in like sustainable projects because over the long run, they can pay you a lot more money and you're much less likely to lose. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's look at what's going on here. So BNB stake took a huge run up just the other day, and then it started to level out, and then it just dumped because people get fearful when they see that balance going down really fast. People start taking profits. People started in this particular model as these interest returns go up so much, they start making a run on it, and it just starts taking a nosedive and people get fearful. One thing I think we can say for certain with this is Hayes Crypto's audit of the smart contract appears to have checked out because you would think, which is usually the case with these high risk, high yield programs, so individuals end up running off with the cryptocurrency at some point. And that didn't happen here. This was just like a smart contract that works the way it works. People joined it, that put funds into the total contract balance, and it kept going up and up and up, as were watching. And then it just shot up the other day at a ridiculous speed, which appeared to be giving an incredible momentum. But what ended up happening was people started taking profits, these really high profits, thinking it wouldn't be able to maintain it. As more people saw the balance going down, there was kind of a panic. And if I hit refresh right now, we'll see that 2,800 balance will have gone down. It just keeps going down because everybody's taking as much profits as they can because they don't trust that this balance is going to hold. And it does look like it's going to hit zero. And then it's going to be interesting because it's a smart contract that just runs. People will continue receiving these big returns. And then if there's nothing in there, you simply can't withdraw anything. And so it'd be interesting what happens then. Will the creators of this continue supporting this site even after the contract balance has hit zero? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting what happens from there. It doesn't seem likely that there'll be a resurgent growing period again, just because it's all about people's faith in it working. You know what I mean? People join it, that's what gives it the balance. And if the balance is going down at this dramatic of a speed and people just lose confidence in it, what's funny is now they're all moving over to another one that's a clone of this called FOMO stake, which again I wouldn't recommend. I had talked about this being even more risky in the sense that they allow you to take your funds out, even your principal at any time. So with what was happening with BNB stake, where the balance started going down, like it was at 28,000 the other day and it started going down really, really fast. If people see that in FOMO stake so far is on the up climb. So you see this one, because I think as people were making BNB over here in this one, some of them started moving it over into FOMO stake, a clone, and there's another one called BNB Minter. And people say you got to get into these early, and it turns out to be, how right they are. You've got to get into these really early, especially these ones that pay really high returns. As this ticked up, it was paying 0.5% more per day, and it would go up. When it started to get to high returns, it becomes less and less sustainable because there needs to be more and more people putting more and more BNB into the contract in order for it to sustain those high payouts. And as soon as it hits like this critical mass point, and no one ever knows what that is, that's why we call it a gamble. As soon as it hit a critical mass point where a lot of people were making so much, it was offsetting the amount of new BNB coming into it from the growth. That's when it started to go down. And now nobody wants to put any new BNB in it because they see it going down. They lose faith in it. And with what I'm saying with FOMO stake is, and I talked about this before, it's at even greater risk of it starting to plummet when it plummets. Now it could keep going for a while. It's right now it's going up. And I would suspect it's going up because this one's going down and people are moving some of their funds over into the new clone, which makes all this kind of funny, right? Like it's a total game. It's totally gambling. It's a game. And, you know, I will say it has been holding up as an honest game. Different from some of these high risk, high yield programs that I would call fraud, the other ones, where somebody would be putting on a show, telling everybody that they're doing legitimate investing and that's how they're paying these returns. Birax is an example of that. And then you go and find out that they were hired actors and it was all just a story and it was a pyramid structure just like this. You know, this is an honest game, in my opinion. They shared how the logic of the both of these, how the logic of the smart contract worked. A lot of people were suspicious, like, is the smart contract airtight, or could somebody who put this together sneak in and run off with everybody's crypto at some point? I think based upon the fact that we saw this at 28,000 BNB and now dropping to 2,700, and if I hit refresh, I bet it's gone down even more because people are just rating it right now. I think it's safe to say that it was a legitimate smart contract. And this gives even more credibility to Hayes Crypto Security, who did the audit of this and the audit of the clones. But nonetheless, there's still high risk, extremely high risk, in the sense that, you know, if they don't sustain themselves, even though it's the market that they're working with, it's a game, extremely high risk, not something that you should seriously be hanging your hat on as a way to legitimately build your portfolio. Now, again, I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice, but I think it just common sense that, and I think everybody would agree, like this, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying out loud what should be obvious to anybody who understands what these are, that this shouldn't be how you build a portfolio or build your dreams. It's something that you maybe put part, if you want to, and I'm not recommending you do, but that some of us put part of our portfolio into a very small part for fun. And I do it just to engage with the technology because it informs me, like this is actually really interesting technology that informs me about the smart contracts and how they work and how they're advancing. It was a pretty advanced smart contract. It was also helpful to see kind of where that market's going, because it is a very large audience of people out there that love to engage with these. And many of them are just uneducated about the risk. So I like to reach out and have candid conversations about these as they emerge and so forth. So by the way, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you updated on this kind of stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this and about some other things that are more sustainable. For those of you that want to, you know, see returns on a regular basis, you can do that with staking in the cryptocurrency industry. Like if we go over here and look at Peak DeFi, I don't know if you can see this. I'm gonna expand my screen here, but this is counting up every second. It says claimable rewards. I can just hit claim, and you can get Peak DeFi from you know, exchanging it with BNB on PancakeSwap. I'll put a link below where you can check that out. This is sustainable. This has been around for a year. If we look at them on, you know, Coin Market Cap, they've been around for over a year. They were originally at 7 cents and now they're at over 40 cents today. And I would suspect it could, you know, I'm not a financial advisor. Nobody has a crystal ball. This isn't advice. I'm just saying that I'm comparing from an educational perspective, the difference between a program like this that's paying returns. Let's look at that again. Where is it? That's paying like these returns. I don't know if you can see this, but every second it's giving more and more peak, which I can transfer into BNB or Ethereum or Bitcoin or anything else. And it's always paying these returns. And you can refer people and get even more Peak DeFi, which you can just restake, or you can cash out, so to speak, by exchanging it for Ethereum or anything, or a different cryptocurrency. And it's always working, and because it has real value in the marketplace. In other words, Peak DeFi as a token has real utility, real use, where people want to access it in order to do what this company does or this project does, is hedge funds, decentralized hedge funds. They're in the DeFi market. And so again, not advising that you do it, but just wanting you to see the difference if you compare and contrast Peak DeFi, and there's another one called Energy. It's a fairly new project that has really high returns because it's early, that people have done really well with. But that has, even though they haven't implemented everything, Peak DeFi has implemented. So it's even, I would say, a more stable project in that they've been around for a long time and they've developed real things that you can use the market's using Peak DeFi token for. Energy is a project that just started that's similar, but even it is very different from these types of programs like BNB Stake, because Energy has a real business model and a real white paper that isn't just pie in the sky, but they're really developing projects that will require use of the Energy token. So there's real chance that the Energy token can go up in value. Kind of like when Bitcoin first started, they had this concept that, hey, people one day are going to really want Bitcoin. People weren't just buying it to make money, although a lot of people went into it for that reason, right? Ethereum and many people get into those, purchase those coins or tokens because they want to make money. But it's because behind that, in back of that, with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and lots of altcoins that are legit, it's people are buying it, planning and expecting it to go up because there's a real utility use that a lot of people believe people are going to want that coin or token for. And Energy is one of those such projects where they're creating dApps, applications where people would use the Energy token. So that's why, it's paying these staking returns, these staking yields like BNB Stake does, but it's based on a legitimate plan of action that's going to have real value. See the difference? Again, I'm not recommending you do anything. I'm not a financial advisor. I want to educate you on the differences between these different models. And just if you are going to play and gamble in things like BNB Stake or FOMO Stake or anything else that's high risk, high yield that doesn't have any sustainable value behind it, just understand the difference between that and other things that are out there like Peak DeFi and Energy, Peak DeFi in particular, because it's already been around for a while, where you can get these rewards, these that are that's giving to you all the time. And there's long-term legs on this thing. A lot of people think, well, I can make so much money in BNB Stake, the first month, right? The problem is then it dies really fast. And a lot of these always do if they don't have any value, sustainable value behind them. Whereas I'm just, again, not recommending you do anything, but just helping you understand the difference between the two models. That something like Peak DeFi that's been around a year, it's on real exchanges. It's going to go on another large exchange, OKEX, a very large Asian exchange, a legitimate project where the price of the token can go up, could go down, but can go up because it has value in the marketplace. People really need to use it. And applications have already been created where people need Peak DeFi to use those applications, and they're in use. In their case, they've developed decentralized hedge funds, which is super cool. And it takes the Peak DeFi token to use them. And they're developing other things. They already have developed many things that require the Peak DeFi token. So that's a sustainable project. So that's all I'm saying. And I continue to encourage people, if you're going to gamble, and I gambled in BNB Stake, if you're going to gamble in these, consider looking at legitimate projects that pay returns, that you can stake in, that have huge possible returns, massive, but can last longer, indefinitely potentially, because they're legitimate projects with real utility, real use for their tokens and so forth. So that's all I'm saying. But kind of coming back to what's going on here, if I hit refresh again, I'm sure the balance went down. When this balance hits zero, it's going to be really interesting. I don't know, they're going to fold this thing up. I can't imagine anybody wanting to put funds in when there'll be a huge accruing amount of owed, matured, people that put funds in. Like I have all these that are going to mature. I have one here that was going to mature in 2 days. I've got another one here that would have matured on the 18th. There's just no way that now that the momentum's this low, that it's ever going to have enough momentum to build this balance back up to be able to allow people to cash out on all of those, forthcoming contracts that, people have put BNB into. Now, we knew this would be short term, but you never know. And I thought it would run a couple more weeks at least. You never know when it's going to collapse. You never know with an unsustainable project. And that's why, again, not recommending these in particular. These are two that I happen to be in, Energy and Peak DeFi, but I'm just encouraging you to know that to look for projects that are sustainable. If you want to research those to kind of further compare and contrast how they differ from these unsustainable projects like BNB Stake, you could absolutely do that. I'll put some links below. But there's another thing that I wanted to share with you, and that is there are also ways to generate a lot of cryptocurrency as income that's not risk-based. To add to your goal of really being able to crush it during this bull market. So for example, we use an Ethereum smart contract, not as an investment, to generate tons of Ethereum, generated way over 800 Ethereum in my first 90 days. And we get to use part of that. And the team has generated over 12,000 Ethereum in their first 90 days, just following a duplicatable system that we use. It's not risk-based, it's not an investment, but it's income paid in Ethereum. So if you want to check that out, reach out and we can show you what that is. And by the way, people have asked, why don't you just give a link to that? Well, I give a link to these other projects like Peak DeFi and Energy, because those are easy staking projects that you can look at to compare and contrast between these unsustainable models like I was just talking about. But when it comes to the income generating smart contract, that I was talking about, we have to work with people, so we're selective about who we work with. So we want you to connect with us in some way. And it could take me a long time to get back to you on that, just because I have so many people who reach out to me. But reach out, and I will eventually get out to you, or somebody on my team will get out to you. And particularly if you post, if you find me on Facebook or something, like if you want to get my attention, you'll get my attention. It might take a while, but I'm very selective about who I work with in that particular program. But Peak DeFi and this Energy, I'll put some links below to that, because that's something you can check out really easily on your own. And just understand those are, there's no guarantee in investing, and I'm not recommending that you invest in these. I'm just saying that these are projects that I'm in for the long term that pay returns, much like BNB stake, not nearly as high, obviously, but because they go the distance, because there's real market value, I can actually end up making so much more than even if I had scored on BNB stake by getting in early, because they last. You see, this is just ticking. It's always ticking. And I just got these started like a couple of days ago. I've already claimed them several times. So, it's a pretty striking difference between how much you can make in legitimate programs versus illegitimate programs. And I call illegitimate programs gambling and stuff. Not that you shouldn't be in them if you want to, but just understand the risks are really high, and it's not something you want to bank on. It's something you play in with a very small amount of what you have, and not, a big portion of what you have. So, just some thoughts and some things to look at. I'm going to hit refresh one more time. I'm sure the contract balance went again down. And I bet if we go look at FOMO, a lot of this is moving over here into the clone, which is just kind of funny. It's a little goofy when you think about it. It's a game. And this is going to go down at some point. And like I was saying earlier, because you can take all of your funds out of this one, they will knock you 20%. So in other words, they'll take 20% of what you take out. If you take your principal out in FOMO stake, it's different than BNB stake. They'll knock you a penalty of 20%, and then they'll put that 20% back in the kitty, in the balance, which can help offset people running on it. But just understand, if people see this thing tanking, it's going to tank much faster than BNB stake did, because people can take their principal out in FOMO stake. They couldn't take it out in BNB stake. For what it's worth, these are all games. They're all gambling. Don't count on them as your main source of income, is my point. Understand there are legitimate staking projects out there. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't recommend them, but I can show you what I'm doing. I'll give you a couple of links for your education to compare and contrast between the two. These can pay you much more over the long run than the unsustainable ones, obviously. And I don't just mean these, I mean sustainable projects that provide returns can pay much more because they last. And that's the thing to keep in mind. So if you participated in BNB stake and you lost money, or you end up losing BNB, just maybe start to change the game plan a little bit and look for sustainable projects so that they're always working for you in the background. You know what I mean? And then if you still want to play in the high stakes gambling game type stuff, obviously that's your choice, but I'm just trying to help you kind of know that there's differences and there's choices that you can make to really do well in the crypto market, and not constantly be kind of gambling and losing, or winning sometimes and then losing sometimes. But really, you could still be doing that with a smaller portion if you wanted to, and then look at sustainable projects, just something to consider. And then if you do have questions about, how we're generating Ethereum as income, not risk-based, not investment-based, totally different ballgame with a duplicatable system, yeah, get a hold of me, reach out to me, or if you find this video somewhere else, someone on my team, and we'll show you what we're doing with that as well. All right, guys, so this one looks like you could put a fork in it. We'll see. I don't see how it could go any other way. It's dropping fast. When it hits zero, it'll be interesting. Does the site come down? Do they leave it up? There'll be people still trying to cash out. I can't imagine anybody still putting funds in it at this point. I still see every once in a while somebody does, but it looks like people lost faith in this because they saw it starting to take a nosedive. And I think, the lesson learned here with these kinds of projects, if it takes you want it to like grow steadily up, that will mean it's going to go longer. If it goes too fast up, I think the lesson I learned here is with this particular project, might have been obvious to others. And, it makes sense in retrospect. If it goes too fast, then it can start going down fast. And once people see that, they lose confidence in it because they see that contract balance go down fast. And then everyone starts running on it. It's really hard for something like this to rebound from something like that. All right, guys, I hope you'll kind of take my recommendation isn't to invest in anything per se, but to take my recommendation in researching sustainable projects, comparing that to the unsustainable ones. And, I have some links below that could help you get started with that so that you can take advantage of this crypto boom and the staking and big returns in a big way, but without always being at so much risk with these short-term programs. And then again, if you want to reach out about how we're generating income paid to us in ETH with a duplicatable system using a smart contract that generated way over 800 ETH for me in my first 3 months, my team over 12,000 at last count in the first 90 days, it's grown since then, which we can then use to put into projects that we're excited about. Reach out to us and ask us about our Ethereum growing income generating system that's not risk-based. All right, guys. I wish you the best out there. It is an exciting time in crypto for sure. Subscribe to this channel, tick the bell so you get notified, and I'll keep you updated with candid reviews on what I see going on out there.